Hello everyone, welcome to the daily current affair analysis brought to you by Shankar IAS Academy, 2nd of November 2025. Before getting into the discussion, please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't, please do subscribe and also hit the bell icon to receive on-time updates from the Academy. Coming to the topics for the discussion, the first topic is sun's corona, because we know that the outermost layer of the sun, that is corona, is superheated than the surface. So based on a recent observation, we will be discussing why. And the second topic is regarding the landslide, because there was a landslide in the highlands of Papua New Guinea and that took life of nearly 21 people. And the next article is regarding the Arya Samaj, because we know that recently the International Arya Maha Sammelan was held in the national capital. So in this topic, we will be discussing the basics about the Arya Samaj and the founder, Swami Dayananda Saraswati. And the next article is regarding the gender disparity in the informal labor market. So we know that as of now, nearly 75% of the Indian workforce is employed in the unorganized sector or in the informal sector. But within the informal sector, there is a gender disparity. So in this topic, we'll be discussing how the gender disparity is persisting in the informal sector and what are the measures that we have in the present system to deal with it. And finally, we'll be focusing on some of the important prelims related focus in the prelims focus. So if all set, let's begin the discussion with the first article. Magnetic waves may explain the sun's super hot atmosphere, new study finds. The article is taken from Indian Express. So we know that the outermost layer of the sun, that is corona, is much hotter than the visible surface. The reason behind was unknown for the scientific community for a very long time, but now we have an explanation for this. A team led by the solar physicist Richard Morton from the Northumbria University, using the telescope, that is the Daniel Kainoi Solar Telescope in Hawaii, which is the largest ground-based telescope in the world. They studied the magnetic field of the sun, and now we have an explanation for this superheated corona of the sun. So before understanding about the explanation, we have to understand certain facts about the sun. So we know that the sun, the supreme source of energy for the entire solar system, and it is classified as a G2V main sequence star. Yes, sun is a star, we know that, and it is classified as G2V main sequence star. What is the feature of the G2V main sequence star? Because the stars under this category will have a surface temperature of approximately 5800 Kelvin or 5500 degrees Celsius. And the sun is an yellow dwarf because it appears yellow in color. And the next is the age of the sun, which is slightly older than the earth, approximately 4.6 billion years. And the next is the diameter, which is equal to 109 earth, that is around 1.39 million kilometer. And the coming to the mass of the sun holds nearly 99.86% of mass of the entire solar system, which enables the sun capable of holding all objects in the solar system, including the 8 planets. And the next is the distance from the earth, that is around 149.6 million kilometer. And the major composition of the sun are hydrogen, which is 74%, helium, which is 24%, and other elements, which is around 2%. And the next is the energy production in the sun. So we know that the energy production in the sun is happening inside the core, where the hydrogen fuse to form helium. The 4 protons of hydrogen will fuse to form one helium, and that releases immense energy in the solar system. And the next is the internal structure of the sun. The layer of the sun, the internal structure can be divided into 3 layers. That is a core, radiative zone, and convective zone. So the core is a region where the energy production is happening, and here we have a temperature of around 15 million degrees Celsius. And the next is a radiative zone, where the energy moves via radiation. And the next we have the convective zone, because here the convection of hot plasma is happening. The hot plasma will rise and fall, and that is why this region is known as convective zone. And the next is the atmospheric layer. So atmospheric layers, there are 3 atmospheric layers in the sun. That is the photosphere. It is a visible surface of the sun with the temperature approximately 5500 degrees Celsius. And the next is a chromosphere. It is a reddish layer of the sun. And the next we have the corona, which is the outermost layer of the sun with the temperature over 1 million degrees Celsius. And now we are going to discuss why the corona, or the outermost layer of the sun, is hotter than the visible surface. So here you can see the diagram of the sun. So internal structure, we can classify them into 3. That is the core. Here the energy production is happening. Next is the radiative zone, because here the energy moves via radiation. And the next is the convective zone. Here we can see the convection of hot plasma. And coming to the atmospheric layer, we have a 3 atmospheric layer. That is the photosphere, which is a visible surface with the temperature approximately 5500 degrees Celsius. Next we have the chromosphere, which is a reddish layer of the sun, and the outer layer of the atmosphere, that is corona. So here we have temperature over 1 million degrees Celsius. And now we are going to see what is the reason behind the coronal heating problem. So why the corona is superheated than the surface? So the scientific study found two mechanisms are working together to superheat the corona. The first is the alpha waves. These are the magnetic waves that travel along the sun's magnetic field, and these waves are capable of transferring or carrying energy from the surface to the outer layer of the sun, that is to corona. And using the largest telescope, that is using the Daniel telescope, for the first time we directly detected these waves in the corona. And you can see that the study also suggested that the alpha waves may supply at least half of the heat for the corona. And the next reason behind the superheating of the corona is the magnetic reconnection happening in the sun. So we know that the magnetic field of the sun is not constant. It is twisting, it is breaking, and it is reconnecting. And this process will release immense energy into the corona, and that can also heat the corona. And you can see that this phenomena leads to various other events like solar flare, bright coronal loop, and micro and nano flare. And you can see that the magnetic reconnection are highly efficient in heating the isolated regions in the sun's outer layer. So two phenomena are working together. The first is alpha waves and the second is a magnetic reconnection. So the alpha waves will carry the source of that is the energy from the surface to the outermost layer. This is heating the corona. And the next is the magnetic reconnection. So the magnetic reconnection also will also release a large quantity of energy into that outermost layer of the atmosphere. And these two phenomena are working side by side to superheat the corona. So the combined effect is equal to extreme heating of the corona. So this is the reason behind the superheating of the corona, according to the recent study done by the scientist. And coming to the prelims practice question. The question is, consider the following statements about the sun. Statement 1, the sun is classified as a G-type main sequence star and produces energy through hydrogen fusion in its core. Statement 2, the corona of the sun is cooler than the photosphere due to rapid radiation loss. Statement 3, the sun exhibits differential rotation with its equator rotating faster than its pole. Which of the above statements are correct? Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 2 and 3 only, option C 1 and 3 only, and option D 1, 2 and 3. So from our discussion we can see that the corona of the sun is superheated than the photosphere. Therefore the statement 2 is incorrect. If the statement 2 is incorrect, then we can automatically come to the answer, that is option C 1 and 3 only. The sun's rotation, there is a sun exhibits a differential rotation because we can see that the sun is not solid like Earth or other planets. Therefore the equator rotates faster than its pole. So therefore the statement 3 is correct, and while the statement 1 is also correct. It is a G-type main sequence star because it has a surface temperature approximately 5800 Kelvin or 5500 degrees Celsius, and it produces energy through hydrogen fusion in its core. Therefore the statement 1 and 3 are correct, while the statement 2 is incorrect. The corona is superheated than the photosphere of the sun. So here the statement is going wrong. So the correct answer is option C 1 and 3 only. So with this we will move to the next article. Landslide kills at least 21 people in Papua New Guinea highlands, Australian media report says. The article is taken from New Indian Express. So recently there was a landslide in the Papua New Guinea highlands, and that took life of nearly 21 people. So in this background, let us discuss more about the landslide. So landslide, we know that it is a type of mass movement. So the mass movement means the movement of a larger scale movement of rocks, debris and soil. And that can be either faster or sometimes it can be very slow. For example, the soil creep. The soil creep is not visible with our naked eyes, and that can be observed, but that can be observed through understanding the slanting of poles or the growth of tree and all. And this landslide is a type of rapid mass movement of soil, rock, debris down a slope due to the influence of gravity. So landslide is a type of mass movement of soil, rock, debris down a slope due to the influence of gravity. And this happens when the stability of the hillside or the slope is lost or weakened. And types of landslide. Sometimes it can be a rock fall, especially in the rocky region, and sometimes it can be a flow of debris or mud flow. Mud flow it is also known as bog burst. And you can see that most of the time, especially during the time of volcanic eruption and all, we will be witnessing this mud flow. And the next is why the landslide occurs. So there are both natural as well as anthropogenic reasons. So the natural causes includes heavy rainfall over a particular region, and that rainfall will make the soil in the area saturated and more vulnerable to landslide. And the next is the events like earthquake and volcanic eruption that can make that can be a trigger point for the disasters like landslide. And the next is weak and unstable soil. So for example, the regions made up of sedimentary soil are highly vulnerable to landslide events. for example, the region of Himalaya. And the next is the anthropogenic causes like deforestation, mining, and road cutting. So road cutting through weak geographical area will make the region vulnerable to landslide. And the deforestation, that means the larger scale removal of the vegetation will reduce the vegetation in that region, as well as will make the region make the soil more vulnerable to saturation. And the next is mining. Mining can especially in the mining activities like blasting will make the region more vulnerable. And what are the preventive methods? First is management of the vegetation and the slope. So most of the time the landslide will be happening in the slope regions because of the high influence of the gravity, and it will be accompanied by the rainfall. So restoring the vegetation through afforestation or reforestation and managing the slope, especially constructing the retaining structures and all, will be helpful in preventing the events like landslide. And the next is proper management of the drainage system is very essential to to drain out the water in the region. So we can see that the when the water enters deep inside the soil, that time the stress inside the soil will be reduced, and the soil will become loose and vulnerable to landslide. So if we have a proper drainage system, then we can drain out the water, the excess rainwater and all from the region, to protect the region from events like landslide. And the next is terracing and contour bunding. So you can see that terracing and contour bunding will be helpful in reducing the stress in that region caused by the gravity. So we know that the gravity is one of the factors behind the mass movement. So definitely this will be helpful in reducing the stress. And what are the technologies that we have to prevent or to monitor the landslide? First, we have the early warning system like Doppler radars and all to understand or to predict the rainfall. So we know that rainfall is one of the major reasons behind the landfall. So we can understand the rainfall. Through that, we can, if possible, we can displace the people from that region and all. And the next is the remote sensing and the geographic information system. So here we can understand the stability of the soil. We can understand we can study the vegetation cover. If it is needed, we can go for reforestation or afforestation in that region to protect the soil. So such methods can be taken through using this method. Such steps can be taken using this method. And the next is geotechnical engineering solutions like construction of bolting of boulders or construction of retaining walls and all. So that will be helpful in preventing the landslide. So these are the major technologies that we have as of now to prevent and monitor to prevent landslide and monitor the stability of the soil. So now we have a prelims practice question. The question is, consider the following statements regarding landslide. Statement 1, an increase in pore water pressure reduces the effective stress within soil, making slopes more prone to failure. Statement 2, weathered rock slopes are generally more stable because weathering increases the cohesion of surface material. Statement 3, lidar-based terrain mapping can detect minor slope deformation even in densely vegetated regions. Which of the above statements is or are correct? So we can see that when there is an increase in pore water, it will reduce the stress within the soil, and you can see that the soil will become eventually more saturated and vulnerable to landslide. Therefore, the statement 1 is correct. And coming to the statement 2, weathered rock slopes are generally more stable because weathering increases the cohesion of the surface material. No chance for that. So therefore, the statement 2 is incorrect. Lidar-based terrain mapping can detect minor slope deformation even in densely vegetated regions. This statement is correct. So the correct answer will be option C, 1 and 3 only. Let's check. Yes. With this, we will move to the next article. Prime Minister addresses the International Arya Samaj 2025 in New Delhi. So we know that recently the International Arya Samaj was held in the national capital to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the Arya Samaj, one of the important social reformist movements emerged in the 19th century. So let us discuss more about it. So first we'll start with the founder, that is Swami Dayananda Saraswati. He was born on 12th February 1824 in Tangara, that is in Gujarat. The original name is Mool Shankar Tiwari. He founded the Arya Samaj in 1875 and made it one of the leading important social reformist movements of the 19th century, and he became an important leading Vedic reformer and also a social reformer of the 19th century. And coming to the major works and teachings, so he published The Light of Truth in the year 1875, that is also known as Satyarth Prakash. And in this book, he gave a rational interpretation of the Vedic philosophy, and he criticized the blind faith and the social evils existed in the 19th century Indian society, such as untouchability, restriction on widow remarriage and the child marriage and all. And Instead, he emphasized more on the reason, science, and the moral conduct grounded in the Vedic ethics. And coming to the Arya Samaj, the reformist movement of the 19th century, it was founded in the year 1875 in Bombay, but later the headquarters was shifted to Lahore. And what are the major philosophy of the Arya Samaj or the founder Dayananda Saraswati? The motto was Krinvando Vishwam Aryam, that is, make the world noble. And you can see that they they popularized the slogan, go back to Veda, go back to Vedas. So here they accepted that the Vedas are the true source of truth and truth, and at the same time they also accepted that later there were many distortions in the Veda. So the Arya Samaj rejected all those distorted facts and principles. Instead, they started supporting the Vedas and upheld it as a true source of truth. And coming to the religious views of the Arya Samaj, you can see that they propagated the idea of monotheism. That means they rejected the polytheism, and here too they rejected the idea of the idol worship and costly rituals. So you can see that once we know that once the Vedic rituals were costly and it was affordable only to the upper section of the society. So they rejected the idea of polytheism and costly rituals and practices. And they also rejected the idea of priestly dominance. That means they said that there is no need to have a priest to communicate with the god. And the next is they criticized, even in the book Light of Truth, Swami Dayananda Saraswati criticized the superstitious belief and the social evils. So the movement also criticized it. And coming to the social vision of the movement, so they stood for the equality of all humans, instead of irrespective of their gender, irrespective of the caste or class. And you can see that they stood for the women's education, widow remarriage, abolition of child marriage and untouchability in the Indian society. And what was the approach of this Arya Samaj? So it was a reformist movement. They wanted to reform the Hindu society, and they did not reject the ideals and values, but instead they rejected the distorted facts and values, and they supported a morality grounded in the Vedic ethics, and also they emphasized on reason and science. That was the approach of the Arya Samaj. And coming to the objectives and activities of the Arya Samaj, so we can see that they stood for education reforms. They established Anglo-Vedic school. They stood for the education of women. They wanted equality in the society. And the next is the social reforms. So you can see that they, Swami Dayananda Saraswati, he criticized the superstitious belief in the society. He stood for, abolition of child marriage, untouchability, and all. And the next is the religious and cultural impact. So they asked instead of completely rejecting the principles of values in the Indian society, they rejected the distorted fact and supported the truth. And you can see that it helped in regenerating the moral ground in the Indian society, and that later influenced the national movement also. So you can see that through the movement, the Arya Samaj, they supported the ideas like self-reliance, that means Swadeshi and all. So this later, influenced the national movement in the early 20th century also. So that is why even today the Arya Samaj is considered as one of the important social reformist movements emerged in the 19th century Indian society. So now we have a prelims practice question. Actually, it is a PYQ taken from the prelims 2018. The question is, which among the following events happened earliest? Option A, Swami Dayananda established Arya Samaj. Option B, Dinabandhu Mitra wrote Neel Darpan. Option C, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyaya wrote Andamat. And option D, Satyendranath Tagore became the first Indian to succeed in Indian civil services examination. So if we take the year, we can see that the Arya Samaj was established in the year 1875, and Neel Darpan was written in the year 1860, and the Anandamadhu was written in the year 1882, and Satyendranath Tagore became the first Indian civil service, succeed in the Indian civil service examination. This happened in the year 1863. So considering the 4 years, we can see that the option B will be the right answer. That is, Dinabandhu Mitra wrote the Neel Darpan in the year 1860. This event happened earliest. So the correct answer is option B. So with this, we will move to the next article. Gender disparity exists even in informal labor market. The article is taken from The Hindu. So what is meant by informal labor market, or the informal sector of the economy, or the shadow economy? So this market includes economic activities which are not adequately covered by the formal laws and regulations. As a result, the economic activities or the enterprises running in the informal sector or in the informal labor market are usually unregistered, untaxed, and operates outside the government supervision. But our concern is about the workforce in the informal labor market, because we can see that as of now in India, nearly 75% of the Indian workforce are employed in the unorganized sector or in the informal labor market. And because of these issues, the workers are facing a lot of problems regarding their wage, regarding their safety standard, and also about the stability of the job. So what are the major features of the informal labor market? The first is the lack of legal protection. So the workers are not covered by the labor laws on minimum wage, working hours, safety standards, and employment terms. So we can see that as of now, in the present system, the standard working hour is 8 hours. But in the case of informal sector, an employee can be employed for nearly 10 to 13 hours per day. And the next is the absence of social security. So the workers in the organized sector or the workers in the registered private enterprises receive certain benefits like social security, that includes pension and provident fund, health insurance, sick leave, maternity and paternity benefits like maternity leave, paternity leave, and all. But the workers in the informal sector may not be getting all these benefits. And the next concern or the next key feature is the precarious employment nature. The work in the informal sector is not stable. Most of the works are casual job or contract based job, but even though these works are contract based works, there will not be any written contract. So this will pave way for exploitation. And the next concern is about, because of the precarious employment nature, the next concern is about the wage. The wage, whether it can be monthly wage or weekly wage, the wage may not be regular. And the next concern is about the next feature is the small scale and easy entry nature of the enterprises in the informal sector. So most of the enterprises or institutions are run by family, therefore the entry is easy comparing with the institutions in the regulated sector, and therefore it requires only low skills and capital. So it has a high opportunity for providing employment for the workforce, and that is why as of now nearly 75% of the Indian workforce are working in the unorganized sector. But how the gender disparity is present in the informal sector? So first form is the gender discrimination. So even within the low productive informal job, the women face worse outcome than the men in terms of wage, in the terms of treatment, in the terms of safety standard, and all. And the next is the low quality employment nature. So we can see that most of the time the employers in the informal sector, they consider women as a last resort. For example, if they want to finish a particular job in a particular time, in a limited time, then only they will most of the time they will consider the women. And you can see that much of the rise in the women's employment in the is in the low productive and unpaid family work. So you can see that as of now in the recent periodical labor force survey shows that there is an increase in the women participation in the informal sector. That is correct, but most of the women are employed in low productive job or in the unpaid family work. And the next concern is about the wage gap. So you can see that women earn less than men across all the forms of informal work in the informal sector, whether it can be regular wage, casual wage job, or in the self-employment. And the next is a barrier to the wage employment. So you can see that comparing with the men, the women has only limited opportunity to get higher and more stable wage job in the informal sector. So this will force them to enter into low earning self-employment. So we know that the rise of the self-employment is good for an economy, but at the same time, rapid rise of the self-employment with the low income is a concern. It has a lot of concern. So we have to think in that angle also. And the next is the time use survey of 2024. So we have taken certain data from the 2024 time use survey, which is released by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. And from the survey, we can understand that the women is facing the problem of time poverty. That means they are not getting adequate time to take care of themselves. So we have certain data which makes it very evident that first is unpaid domestic service. So comparing with the men, the women is spending more than 89 minutes daily on household work. So you can see that the men is spending only 88 minutes, but the women is spending 289 minutes, which is more than 3 times than the men. And the next is the participation rate. So you can see that 81% of the women engage in domestic service compared to 27.1% of men. So imagine that if the woman is employed, she is spending more time in the household work. At the same time, she has to spend more time in the institution where she earns. So you can see that this is because of this, the women is working nearly 15 to 16 hours per day. that is one of the reasons why they are facing the time poverty. And the next is unpaid caregiving. So we can see that as of now, India, we have a rising old age population. And whenever we discussed an article about the old age population, every time we talked about the caregiving burden. That means the women has to, they have to bear more burden of the caregiving. So we can see that the women is spending nearly 137 minutes of a day on caregiving, while the men is spending only 75 minutes. So the rising, old age population in the coming days will also give an indirect burden on the women. So from this data, we can understand what are the issues the women are facing in the informal sector of the economy, and how they are going uncounted. And coming to the measures to address the gender disparity and wage gap in the present system. So first we have the legislation for the equal law. So we have the Equal Remuneration Act of 1976, which prohibits the gender-based wage discrimination for the same and similar work. For example, if the women and men are doing the same work, they have to be paid equally. And the next is the maternity and workplace safety. For that, we have the Maternity Benefit Amendment Act of 2017, which provides 26 weeks of paid maternity leave for the women. And the next we have the Sexual Harassment of Women at the Workplace Act of 2013, which ensures grievance mechanism for safer workplace ambience for the women. And the next we have the Lakpati Didi scheme, which was launched in 2023, which provides training for the rural self-help group women to earn at least 1 lakh per annum. And the next we have the umbrella scheme for the entrepreneurship, that is the Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, which provides collateral free loan up to 10 lakh, which widely support the women-led micro businesses in the from the grassroots level. So in this topic, we discussed the informal labor market, what are the key features, and how the gender disparity is existing in the informal labor market, and what are the measures that we have in the present system to address the challenges faced by the women in the informal sector. So based on this, try to answer this mains practice question. The question is, gender disparity persists even within the informal labor market despite its low productivity and flexibility. Discuss the underlying reasons for such disparities and evaluate the effectiveness of recent policy measures aimed at improving women's labor market outcomes. So it's a 15 marks question, and you have to write around 250 words. So based on our discussion, try to answer the question and post it in the comment section. We will review and we will reply for your answer. Now it's time to move to the next article. So coming to the prelims focus, the first topic is Fit India Freedom Run 6.0. So it was conducted from 2nd October to 31st October, and finally the run was concluded with the Unity Run on 31st October to commemorate the birth anniversary of the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, the Iron Man of India. And the event was organized by the government e-marketplace, and you can see that this event is, that is a Fit India Freedom Run, is aligning with the national campaign under the Fit India movement, which is aimed at improving better lifestyle and healthy practices in the people. And coming to the theme of the Fit India Freedom Run, it is Swachhta and Swasthya. That means cleanliness and health. So it is highlighting the importance of maintaining clean and healthy lifestyle. And you can see that after the run, we also organized a cleanliness drive along the route to reinforce the message of civic responsibility and collective action. And the next is the Fit India Freedom Run. So it was actually launched in 2020 by the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports to commemorate the Indian independence and the Gandhi Jayanti. So the objective is to encourage the people to adopt better and active lifestyle. And the next is the National Workshop on Naksha program for district collectors. What is the full form of Naksha? It is the National Geospatial Knowledge Based Land Survey of Urban Habitation. So it is about to roll out. So for that, before that, the Department of Land Resources, in collaboration with Labasna's B.N. Yugender Center for Rural Studies, they conducted a national workshop to build administrative and technical readiness for the rollout of the Naksha program. And what are the key highlights of this workshop? First is a comprehensive review of the Naksha's workflow and ground truth. And the next is a technical training on geographic information system and modern survey techniques. And the next is practical insight on data acquisition. And the next is a discussion on administrative and legal implementation framework of the Naksha program. So these are the major actions took place in the national workshop. And the next is the Indian Coast Guard Station Ajit and Indian Coast Guard Station Abhijit. So these are two vessels, that is a 7th and 8th vessel in the the series of 8 indigenously built fast patrol vessels. So the ICGS Ajit and ICGS Abhijit both are fast patrol vessels of the Indian Coast Guard. And as of now, we have nearly 8. We have total 8 fast patrol vehicles, and this is the first time we are giving controllable pitch propeller to the fast patrol vessels for the Indian Coast Guard. And you can see that this ensures better propulsion efficiency and also the maneuverability. And you can see that it was constructed by the Goa Shipyard Limited. And what is the role? So the role is multi-mission roles. It performs multi-mission roles, including fisheries protection, coastal patrol, anti-smuggling, anti-piracy, and the search and rescue operations. So it is a multi-action or it is capable of multitask that includes protection for the fisheries, coastal patrol, anti-smuggling, anti-piracy, search and rescue operations. And the aim is to enhance the nation's coastal surveillance and response capabilities. And the next topic is the Pradhan Mantri Ayushman Bharat Health Infrastructure Mission. So between the year 2021 and 26, the PM Ayushman Bharat Infrastructure Mission allocated nearly 64,180 crore to strengthen the India's health infrastructure for pandemic preparedness and emergency response. And it was launched on October 2021. So the aim is to upgrade the healthcare facilities from primary to tertiary level, including the Ayushman Bharat Arya Mandir labs, critical care blocks, and the surveillance systems across the world. So the significance is, the mission advances the objective of universal health coverage goal, and it also aligning with the Sustainable Development Goal 3. So coming to the prelims practice question, the question is, with reference to the Pradhan Mantri Ayushman Bharat Health Infrastructure Mission, consider the following statements. Statement 1, it aims to strengthen India's health infrastructure for pandemic preparedness. Statement 2, it includes the establishment of Ayushman Arya Mandir and integrated public health labs. It was statement 3, it is implemented by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So which of the above statements is or are correct? So from our discussion, we can see that all the 3 statements are correct. So the correct answer is option D, 1, 2, and 3. With this, we are coming to the conclusion for today's current affair analysis. If you like the video, hit the like button, give your feedbacks as comments, and share this content with your friends. And before leaving this channel, don't forget to subscribe and also hit the bell icon to receive on-time updates from the academy. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for listening to me. Have a nice day.